Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Creative Hour here with Joanna. I'm here in Luton, and this lesson is for Margaret's education. We thought it'd be interesting to start maybe looking at some online lessons to support your students while they're at home, and maybe to give you a break as well. In this Creative Hour, I'm going to look at English language and the arts. And I'm going to take an example of the UK artist Tim Etchell as an example. So here is Tim, and we're going to look at an exhibition he has in Luton called Hearing Voices. And I really thought his work as part of this exhibition was really interesting. Unfortunately, we can't go because it's closed at the moment. But Tim is from Sheffield, and he came down to Luton, and he wanted to get to know the people in Hightown a bit better. So he went round Hightown having conversations with local people. So before he did that, he brainstormed some interesting questions that he'd like to ask people. And some of the questions he asked included, what is your happiest memory? What did you dream of last night? Describe the face of someone you care about. Describe Luton. Then he wrote down his answers in a little notebook like this. And he went round speaking to lots of ordinary people. So cab drivers, shopkeepers, cleaners, the people in the laundrette in Hightown, people in food shops around Hightown, and he got a wide range of responses. What he did then was he went back and looked at his answers in terms of what people said and found some interesting language that he could make an artwork out of. So let me give you some examples. Here we have sorry, maybe it's not very clear. So these are just photographs from the gallery space in Luton. And one example here is photos are becoming a thing of the past. It's quite interesting. I'm not sure if I agree. But this one here is a little bit smaller. It talks about a ship taking rice from Karachi to somewhere in Iran. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Another one here that simply says, good memories. Another one here talks about, I never had no problem with Luton. Another one here, nothing wasted. And then finally, it's all about Poundland now. So what he wanted to do with these pieces of text that he put into a painting was to try and look at what the mood of the community is. And I thought that might be interesting, given that we're all locked in our houses at the minute, if we could start thinking about really interesting questions and then maybe put our answers together and to think about, well, actually, what is the mood of our house? What is the mood of our street? Okay. I'd like to talk you through what I did, and then I'd like you to try and create your own. So I brainstormed some questions in the same way that Tim did. Then I called my friend and I asked her these questions. You can see, what does it feel like to be inside your house all day? Yeah, thank you. Or maybe you have a room, or maybe you have a flat. So what does it feel like to be in that space all day? How have things changed for you and your family? So maybe your family are not all together. Maybe you're all separated. Is that something that you find interesting or you wanted to ask somebody? The third question then was, have you learned any new skills? So I wanted to know, well, what was she doing with herself, being in her house or her flat or her room all this time on her own? So these are the questions that I wanted to ask. So then she gave me her answer. She said, it feels very strange. I'm not used to being at home all day. Even during the holidays, I can go out, but this feels weird. But I also think it's positive. And I said, well, why? And she said, because I feel free. I can do whatever I want, and I have no one to tell me what I can or can't do. So I thought the whole notion of, or the whole idea of feeling free was interesting. So I thought, in the same way that Tim took 2 or 3 words, I thought I'm going to take I feel free as my example. So what I want you to do in this stage again is to write your notes. So when you have your questions, write your notes, write your answers down, post them to the WhatsApp group so I can mark them, or upload them to the Facebook page so I can check them and give you feedback. The next stage then is, when you have your notes, you need to try and think very creatively about what pieces of language you would like to make an artwork out of. So again, I said I feel free. I thought that was really interesting, and that's what I chose. But you'll have your own examples, and you need to think about them. The next thing you need to think about then to try and make your artwork is what materials you're going to use. So obviously we will all have different materials at home. Here are some of the ones that I have. So I've got drawing pens, highlighter pens, colouring pencils, crayons, more highlighters, some pieces of charcoal, colouring pens, etc. Now I have these because I took them from the classroom, so I think not everyone would have these at home. And then I thought, well, what if we are trying to keep our resources because we don't know how long we're going to be in lockdown for? And I thought, well, you know, we could look at maybe other ways of trying to create an artwork and other types of materials. So yesterday, when I was out for my daily walk, I picked up these in Warden Park, in the local park near my house. And I thought, well, actually I could make letters out of these twigs and use them. The infamous toilet rolls, we could use them for materials. I was also thinking about, well, maybe we're running low on rice. So I'm not sure if that's useful, but maybe you could ask your mum if you could take maybe a handful of rice and try and make letters out of those. As you can see, we're also running low on beans, but you could maybe take some of these beans and form letters out of them. If you don't have that, you could use cutlery, you can use pieces of furniture in your house. If you are near an open space, maybe you can get some stones. So what I'm trying to say is that don't worry if you don't have the latest paints in your house. You don't need money to be creative. So I want to show you what I've chosen. It's these pieces of brown paper, and I keep these for writing, for a writing material. And do you know where I get them from? So the handles from the brown bags. So I take them out and I keep them to use maybe when I'm doing different types of writing. And that's what I did for this exercise. So here's my example. I feel free. Now I used these brown labels in the bags, the hand carriers, and actually I also needed glue for this. So I don't know if you all have glue at home. I use glue so that I could hold it up and show it to you. If you don't have glue, it's not a problem. You can leave the object that you're going to use on your paper. If you have no paper, you can use your floor, use the table, and just take a photograph when you finish. Upload your photograph to the Facebook group, to the WhatsApp group, and tell me what your process was, how you did it, and I will give you feedback. So, just to recap what you have to do. We're looking at the UK artist Tim Etchell. Yeah. And Tim came to London and he wanted to use language and art to get to know people better. So he went out to the local community and he interviewed people. So he prepared his questions in advance. I'd like you to write three questions that you can ask your parents, your siblings, and members of your extended family. You might call your friends and do a little mini interview with them. So I want to see your 3 questions. You will need to make some notes as you're interviewing your friend or family member. I want to see your notes from that. Then you'll need to think about what materials you're going to use, whether you have art materials at home, but it doesn't matter if you don't. It's about being creative and using objects in your house, such as maybe grains of rice, twigs from the garden or the local park when you go outside. But of course, if you have materials that you do want to use, that's fine. Anything is fine. So then you're going to choose the text from your interview and create an artwork with that. Upload the artwork to the WhatsApp group, the Facebook group, and I'll give you feedback. Your last task is to write what you did, how you felt, if you like your artwork, why you chose the materials, and just to really think about the process. And I'd like maybe a very short paragraph. Again, upload it to the WhatsApp group, upload it to the Facebook group, and I'll give you feedback. Okay, so there were a number of technical issues in our first session today, but I'd be delighted if your children could try these activities. I'll be online now for an hour or so. I can answer any questions you've got. If you want to post to the group, please do. And I look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.